Welcome into Watch DA Live, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. And the watch is on. Number one pick in the NFL draft. The Chicago Bears are on the clock. And joining us from 670 The Score in Chicago, a good friend of mine. He hosts afternoons there. Also is the author of a new book, Pipeline to the Pros, which we'll get to coming up here shortly. It's a really cool book, especially for you basketball people out there. Joining us here on the program is Danny Parkins. Danny, how you doing?
DA, good to be on, man. Tremendous graphic. I love what you've done with the place. This is fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Well, you and Caleb Williams are now sewn together at the hip. But I want to go back to the previous quarterback because I heard you say that the previous quarterback, Justin Fields, as good as he was as a player, was an even better person, that he was an 11 as a person. And I think that goes against the grain of what a lot of people thought went wrong or could have went wrong in Chicago, because we had that incident where he seemed to blame the coaches for how poorly the offense was being run. So describe to us what's something that maybe fans around the nation don't realize is the case that at least you see with Justin Fields.
Well, first of all, when he blamed the coaches, he was right. But then he still apologized because that's how good of a guy he is. It was ridiculous. They tried to go from all of the running that you saw in 2022 when he made that run at Lamar Jackson's single season rushing record for a quarterback to none of it and make him a statue like he was Joe Burrow or Tom Brady back there, as opposed to, doing a combination of both. And the start of the 2023 season was so terrible. He said, they're overloading me, and they're trying to make me something that I'm not. They're trying to square peg round hole this situation. And then he still walked it back because he didn't like how the comments were kind of going viral online. But listen, he's the type of guy who took a ton of accountability, who never blamed the inadequate talent that was around him, that never blamed management, that never lashed out at fans, that was incredibly philanthropic within the community. That the guy's a vegan and incredibly health conscious, and after games he would always buy like all of the candy that the kids were selling, the M&Ms and the Snickers bars or whatever. He just would give him the 20, buy the whole box, but then tell him to keep the candy, and he would keep driving, and like all of those things, not when the camera's around. He was a great dude, and the players on the team swore by him. They swore by his work ethic, his humility, all of that stuff. It just, for reasons that were both his fault and the fault of the Bears, it didn't click fast enough. And I really think that if the Panthers would have won 5 or 6 games and the Bears would have the 7th pick and the 9th pick, we'd be debating trading up for Drake May or J.J. McCarthy. But I think there'd be a really good chance here that they would just be building around Justin Fields. But because they have the number 1 pick, they're moving on, and they should be.
Well, so just from an observation standpoint, it's hard to say that it worked in Chicago, even if Caleb Williams wasn't there for Justin Fields. And so I've heard you say that this is the best situation a number 1 overall draft pick could walk into from a quarterback standpoint. And I've heard you give Ryan Poles A+ or at least A grades for many of the moves. So now that we have cleared that smoke here, how fired up are you for Caleb Williams in Chicago? Do you think there's any potential trap door here? Because not everybody's in love with Caleb Williams the way that you are.
Yeah, listen, I think it's insane to not be. And listen, fully will admit that as someone who's never seen the Bears have a good quarterback, I fall for the new guy with hope. Like, I wanted it to be Deshaun Watson. It was Mitch Trubisky. I talked myself into maybe this will work. I wanted it to be Fields when they traded up for him. I loved watching Justin Fields play. Like, I hope traffic. I'm as rational and logical as the day is long with basically everything in my life, sports and otherwise, with the exception of the Bears quarterback. Like, I believe in all of them because I believe that one day, if the Bungles could become the Bengals when they get Joe Burrow, or the Chiefs can go 30 years between games where they win a single regular season game with a quarterback that they drafted until a guy named Patrick Mahomes comes along. Like, I believe one day too, it'll happen for the Bears. But the city is very excited. I am very excited. He's unbelievably talented, and he's swaggy as hell. He's cocky as hell. He is talking about chasing down Brady's 8 Super Bowl, like going for 8 Super Bowls. He is saying, like Kobe studied Jordan, he is studying Mahomes and Rodgers. Like, he has no problem putting that on him. And I love that. As someone who has a healthy amount of ego myself, I absolutely love it.
Okay, painted fingernails, taunting opponents, crying in the stands. None of this is a red flag to you.
Okay, the painting of the fingernails, his mom was a nail technician. That's how him and his mom bonded when he was a kid. He started it as a tribute to her. One time he painted F Utah on his fingernails. Then they lost to Utah and he got mocked on the field. And he's like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that. But the painting of the fingernails thing is, I don't care at all about that. Crying in your mom's arms, not a great look for someone who cares about outside criticism, but it does show that you care a lot. And we'll see how that translates to the next level. And I'd rather have a guy care more than he doesn't. What was the other one? Painting the fingernails.
Well,
no.
I said, and taunting the opponents, which goes back.
Taunting the opponent, the F Utah thing. Listen, he's a business man. He's different. He is eccentric. He's an NIL superstar. He lives in a high rise in Hollywood. He goes to restaurants that, you and I would get turned away from and laughed at, even if we tipped the bouncer $100. Like, he's got Q rating. He has a foundation already. Literally, he has his own charitable foundation that has already been set up for mental health destigmatization, to help with kids who are bullied. All of these things. Like, he is a world traveler. He's an interesting, different, eclectic kind of guy. But that's the modern athlete. Like, Drake May is a millionaire from NIL. Jaden Daniels is a millionaire from NIL. Caleb Williams is just better than them, and so he's more famous than them. So I think that this is actually going to be the new normal, frankly, going forward. And so you may as well adjust to it early as opposed to be later. You're going to miss the boat.
Deion Sanders suggested that he would tell Shedeur to not sign with certain teams if he was drafted. And then there was this idea that Caleb should do the same thing to the Bears, pull an Eli Manning. You think that's utterly insane?
Well, I think if it was going to happen, it would have already. Like, they're already doing install.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a story in the Tribune today about how Ryan Poles, his kid had a Justin Fields jersey, went as Justin Fields for Halloween, had a Justin Fields poster on his wall. He had to tell his kid that he was trading Justin Fields. His 11-year-old son was devastated. But now his son, he showed him YouTube highlights of Caleb Williams, and his lock screen is a picture of Caleb Williams. Like, Caleb Williams is going to be a Bear.
Right, but do you think that it's a good situation for Caleb to walk into, that he should not say, I'm not doing it? I mean, obviously it's going to be done anyway.
I think that this is not even – I don't think you can make an argument that this is a homer opinion. We have never seen a number 1 pick quarterback go to a better situation, period. It's never happened before. They won 7 games last year. Andrew Luck, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, those guys all entered 1 or 2 win teams. How many wide receiver duos in the NFL are better than DJ Moore and Keenan Allen? 1 or 2? Maybe. They were 6th and 11th in the NFL last year in receiving yards. Plus Cole Kmet, plus DeAndre Swift, plus an all-rookie right tackle in Darnell Wright, plus a $20 million right guard in Nate Davis, plus a very good left guard on a rookie deal in Tevin Jenkins, plus a league average left tackle on a rookie deal in Braxton Jones. And then they paid Ryan Bates as a center, or they traded for him, but he was a veteran center on a multi-year deal to upgrade at center this year. So it is a average to above average and young offensive line with a dynamic wide receiver duo, a top 10 tight end, another solid tight end in Gerald Everett, a solid explosive running back in DeAndre Swift, and the 9th pick in the draft, plus a for sure top 10 defense, maybe top 5, Jalen Johnson, Jaquan Brisker, Tremaine Edmonds, TJ Edwards, Montez Sweat. Like, this is a very solid team. You're in the NFC and not the AFC. All the good quarterbacks are in the AFC. So obviously Matt Eberflus is a question mark. I would have fired him to hire the best offensive coach that you could. They didn't. They like his leadership and they like the continuity. Shane Waldron, he got Geno Smith to throw 30 touchdowns. Caleb Williams is a much better prospect than Geno Smith was. So is it a perfect situation? Is this walking into Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and Andy Reid? No, but Pat Mahomes was the 10th pick in the draft, and they traded up from 27 to get him. So that's a different situation. For a prospect to be as highly graded as Caleb, to be good enough to be the number 1 overall pick, never in our lifetime has one walked into a better situation than this. So leveraging his way out of here to go to Washington would have been ridiculous.
Danny is the author of a new book called Pipeline to the Pros. D3 small college nobodies head to the NBA. And this is such a fascinating read. So I want to start with the history of the NBA for a moment here. Let's talk a little NBA playoffs since they're underway. Take every team that's in the playoffs, and if they were the NBA Finals champs for 2024, who has the best historical story? You would say, boy, that team is so memorable that you go, the 24 champs. Oh, yeah, of course I remember them because they did this or this player did that. Which team or player has such significance if they win the title this year?
Well, that's an interesting way of framing it. The answer is probably Denver, and they're the favorite because Jokic is going for 3 MVPs in 4 years. And if he stacks back-to-back titles on top of it, we're going to have to start talking about him. Like, is he better than Hakeem Olajuwon? You know, that we're going to have to start talking about him as a top 12 player of all time. We're going to have to start talking about, is he the best international player of all time? So Jokic as a dominant force in the prime of his career, pairing MVPs with rings, probably has the biggest leap that he could make legacy-wise. And then the other team that I would give you, like, if Oklahoma City somehow won, it would be such a validation for Sam Presti, who we write a lot about in the book, that, and for team building and small market team building, because like when Milwaukee won their title, it was a small market team, but they hit on the one super duper star. And SGA, don't get it twisted, he'll be top 3 for MVP. He is a superstar, but they're so young, and the way they've built that team with all homegrown guys, that would be a pretty incredible, like, oh man, if they can do it in Oklahoma City, we could do it in Portland or Indiana or wherever. So I think Oklahoma City would have a ton of ramifications for the rest of the league. But in terms of legacy that we would remember 20 years from now, I'd say it's Denver.
Pipeline of the Pros, as you said, it profiles these D3 power brokers in the NBA. Popovich, the Van Gundys, Presti, Brad Stevens. So this is such a remarkable pipeline, as you put it, from small level college to running the NBA. And I think the theory to me is that if you go and play D3 basketball, you do it for the pure love of the game, that you do not have much athletic ability, but you just love this thing so much. There's no fame, there's no fortune, there's no celebrity, there's no, this is my pathway to the NBA or making money from doing this. So you just got to do it for the love of the game. And then that love of the game translates when you become executives or coaches or what have you, because there is no athletic demarcation between an NBA player and not. Now it's all smarts and guts and, you know, guile and things like that. So is there a common theme between all those guys that you profiled, how they go from nobodies in D3 to run to the NBA?
Yeah, I think so. And if someone said, oh, you're overstating and running the NBA, of the top 6 seeds in each conference, that's 12 teams, East and West, this year in the playoffs, 5 of them are run by a former D3 player, and 3 of them are coached by a former D3 player. So right now, you are statistically as likely to be an NBA head coach or an NBA president of basketball operations if you play D3 basketball or D1 basketball. So that's insane. And the through line, I think, is something that you alluded to. It's like it's the well-rounded education and the smarts. Because, yeah, the guys back in the day, like of the Van Gundy ilk, and Jeff Van Gundy wrote the foreword of the book, they, you know, coaches are teachers and they're basketball lifers, and they happen to get in and then they outwork people and they're good teachers. And we talk about those guys and their incredible stories, like the Tom Thibodeaus of the world. But on the executive side, I mean, Brad Stevens worked at Eli Lilly. Rafael Stone, who runs the Rockets, he was the youngest partner at a law firm. Kobe Altman he runs the Cavs. He was a 6-figure real estate broker. I mean, these guys had well-rounded educations, were doing other things, played basketball at a high enough level, fall back into basketball, and then they use those well-rounded educations like Kobe Altman to bond with Dan Gilbert, who made his money in mortgages, or Rafael Stone, who's a lawyer who could make an argument to Daryl Morey, hey, contracts, I know something about it. I'm a lawyer. Include me in your basketball conversations as a contingency for getting hired for the job. And now he's sitting in basketball meetings with Daryl Morey. He played D3 ball. They can speak that language. Daryl Morey leaves. He runs the Rockets. So these guys, the book, yes, it's a nitty-gritty NBA book, but I also think it's a management primer. It speaks to the value of networking and, frankly, the value of a liberal arts education. So I think there's a lot of lessons in there.
In a day and age where liberal arts education gets slammed for being $70,000, you come out with no specialty.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but you learn that you can do a lot of different things.
I guess so.
Like listen, as someone who's got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, but then has a nephew who's a senior in high school and he's going through the college process right now, I'm like, dude, just choose fun. Choose fun.
Okay.
Don't go to Stores, Connecticut. Choose fun. Like you'll just take a bunch of different classes, meet a bunch of different people, have a bunch of fun, and you'll figure it out as you go and get life experiences. And that, honestly, that's one of the lessons of not that like Williams or Amherst are the most fun places in the world, but for my 18-year-old, I'm pressuring him for fun. But like in general, it's the well-rounded education, I think, is a very valuable thing because you don't know where your life's going to take you, but you want to be able to be versatile in a lot of different situations.
And I'm sure his guidance counselor is thrilled that you're giving him that advice.
Yeah, nor is my sister-in-law. Yeah, no one is loving that advice. But I mean, come on, man. Stores, Connecticut.
Well, I mean, you and I attended Syracuse, and so it's much of the same weather. And I think you could make much of the same argument. Both you and I had fun, but I don't know if it was quite going to Gainesville or Austin, Texas.
Yeah, no, we listen. Have you been to Stores, Connecticut?
I have not.
Dude, there's no Marshall Street, buddy. Yeah.
I've heard war stories that it's pretty terrible.
Yeah. Syracuse is cold, but it's still fun. No. Sorry to anybody who's a UConn alum who's listening to this, but your place.
This is not just a Big East rivalry animosity type of take.
I could care less.
Specifically, Stores is the hellhole that you were describing that you could never attend for 4 years.
Yeah, dude, go to Georgetown, hang out in DC. I don't care. I don't care about the rivalry aspect of it for Syracuse. I'm saying specifically, Stores, Connecticut is a miserable town. That's what. If you could spend 4 years in Stores, Connecticut, or Boulder, Colorado, where do you think you'd have more fun?
Oh, I think I know. I think
that's
a no-brainer. I think that's Pipeline of the Pros. This is available for pre-sale already, right?
Yeah, it's out. April 16th was the release day. Yeah, it's out. The audio book is out. It's being endorsed by bigwigs like Adrian Wojnarowski and others. And I really hope people check it out. Me and my co-author Ben Kaplan worked our asses off on it. A portion of every book sold will go to brain cancer research in honor of my brother Brad. This is a passion project. This is not like the biggest moneymaker in the world. So we just want people to read it and get the last 3 years of our work life in this into your hands. So thank you for talking to me about it.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's a really cool project. And I think for Father's Day, if you've got a dad, a brother, a grandfather, someone in your life, a husband that just loves hoops and just loves the NBA and kind of like how the NBA is built and how decisions are made. This is so cool. It's a really cool book, and it's worth every cent simply because somehow you dug up this ridiculous graphic that they ran at the New York Daily News when Van Gundy got the Knicks job with the odds of who's going to be the next head coach of the Knicks. Larry Brown 2-1, Fratello 3-1, Calipari 10-1, Pitino 15-1. Carnesecca got 5,000-1. Louis Carnesecca retired at that time, 15,000 or 5,000-1, and then they gave freaking Jeff Van Gundy, who writes the forward in this book, 50 million to 1 to keep that job. 50 million to 1. I have no idea where you found that. That's a lot of microfiche you had to go through to find that stat, to find that graphic bubble, that infographic. It's worth the price of admission.
Yeah, that is incredible. Van Gundy said he should have bet the author of that piece, $10 and taken all of his money. Then he would have never had to get any jobs in coaching. But yeah, man, it also in San Antonio, when Pop signed his first extension, because he was a coach and GM at the time. So this is 1997, 2 years before he wins that first ring. They do the San Antonio Gazette, whatever the newspaper was, does a poll, 500 readers. Survey. What do you think of the extension? 92% of Spurs fans said that Greg Popovich should be fired. These people were doubted every step of the way, even when they even had the jobs, until they had proved it beyond a reasonable doubt. So it's a real, something out of nothing story that I think a lot of people can relate to.
And that must have been a couple of weeks before they drafted Tim Duncan or something like that, right? Wasn't Duncan number 1 of the 97 draft? So this is right before everything turns and Popovich becomes maybe the greatest head coach of all time.
There's so many insane stories like that, man. Yeah. So I do think people, we found that we actually didn't make the book, but we found Sam Presti's his first on the record statement of how he wants to build a team. It was a letter to the editor of the Boston Globe at 16 years old saying, saying that the Celtics should trade everybody and draft Jason Kidd.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So this book is well researched, man.
That's very cool.
This book is well researched.
Pipeline of the Pros. Check it out right now. Very cool. It's available. Danny Parkins, 670 The Score in Chicago. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, DA.